we do you can't see, but I've got a resting metabolic rate analyzer. We have a bioimpedance analyzer assessment machine, and then I have a VO2 max and a treadmill or like a elliptical in my office.
Oh, cool.
What were those original tests again? You said you had the genetic tests, the hormone test.
We do pharmacogenetic testing quite frequently, and then we do saliva and or urine hormone metabolite testing. Then we do we have an account with SpectraCell, so we can do micronutrient deficiency testing. We have Genova, and you can do a plethora of testing there, but usually like a stool test for the gut microbiome. You can do SIBO or SIFO testing, heavy metal toxicity.
So
and then if I have a consult, then the patient, I actually have a lab sheet that is advanced testing. So where if the doctor just does a TSH and say a total T4, and the patient's like, no, my thyroid's fine, the doctor told me, then my thyroid panel is like 7. I'm looking at 7 things. And so when my cholesterol is perfect, no, it's probably not. So then I do an advanced panel, and an advanced lipid panel. My blood sugar's fine, it's 98, and I'm like, no, we're going to do a fasting insulin. So I'm looking at correlating, but more advanced or more detailed tests because the problem is that everybody is saying, I'm fine. The doctor, I have all these symptoms. I go to the doctor and the doctor says I'm fine. So I guess I'm fine or I'm crazy. And out of that is where I was like, no, you're not crazy. And there's got to be something else. So then with the functional medicine training, I was like, oh, that makes sense. Insulin rises 15 to 20 years before an A1C or a fasting glucose rises. So what if we tested your insulin and we could avert a crisis of diabetes down the road? So I'm looking at things that the doctor's not looking at.
Now, do you give them that test and kind of work them through paying for and ordering the test, or do you have to give the doctor something for him to?
Okay. So in Oklahoma, we can order lab tests without a doctor's order, but if you want insurance to cover it, you have to have a doctor's order. So I give the patient, I have a worksheet. I give them a worksheet, and we designed. And it has all my labs, and then it says, did that freeze on me? Can you guys hear me?
We're good.
Oh, okay. So the video froze in a horrible position. I'm like froze like this. And 2 columns, and it says, insurance will pay for it, insurance won't pay for it. And we give the CPT codes. So the patient then takes that list, calls their insurance, asks per CPT, are you going to pay for this or not? Whatever the insurance will pay for, we send it to the doctor and go order that. Whatever the insurance doesn't cover, they bring it to me, and then we use Ulta Labs. It's like pennies on the dollar, super duper cheap.
Wow.
In fact, I've worked with them, and they let me create my own panels. So I have a thyroid panel, and then I have a cardiometabolic panel. So it's like the functional PharmD thyroid, the functional PharmD cardiometabolic. So I just pick my stuff, and then the patient pays the lab themselves, and then they just walk into the lab and get it all drawn at one time. So.
Awesome. Very neat. Do you ever tie in any like spirituality or mental or trauma work?
Absolutely.
How do you go about doing that?
So it's kind of all wrapped into, I wouldn't say I go into it in depth, like I'm going to work with a patient on those things, but I do absolutely, that questionnaire, they can see the trauma and where things happened after that, and I let them know, because they're hard waters to navigate, because remember, I'm still just a pharmacist. I hate to use the word just, but the patients don't see me in a capacity to where I could be a therapist. You know what I mean? Right. So I kind of let them decide. I go, this trauma, I give rise to it, and I acknowledge it and go, this is critical to your health, you working through this. And then I kind of leave the door open for them to let me know, this is why we have Kleenexes everywhere. One of my technicians, when she first came to work for me, she said, "This is kind of more like a women's crisis center than a pharmacy." And I was like, "That's perfect." But yes, we do. It comes out, and if it doesn't come out, then I start digging, because everybody has dysfunction and trauma, and there's so much evidence that's saying that leaves a footprint on the microbiome and on neurotransmitters. And I tell people that without healing that or working through that, without finding your way to mitigate the effects of stress, and without changing your diet, I can't do anything for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be able to do these things before we get into healing, really.
So if kind of, and that's awesome, because to me, that's the first place you have to start. Because if you can't get past this, then you won't get them exercising. You won't get them. They'll self-defeat themselves to death, and then they give up. And so they won't be empowered to do anything. But I love that. Going back real quick, I had a question on, like, say you do the hormone test and you get the results, because you kind of talked this through on the first call. Can you then come up with a recipe for their hormones and make them a prescription, or do you have to have the doctor do that?
No. So this is something I learned. Patients have two options. They can, because we have people that just walk in and go, I heard about the saliva test, I want to do that. So we tell them at that point, you can do the test, and you can it comes with an interpretation for your provider that you will get, and you can bring to the provider, and you can do the test and take everything to your provider and let them determine your therapy. And then you can take the prescription to me or somebody else. Or if you want me to take the lead, you have to follow my protocol, which means you have to give me a 14-day food journal. You have to do the serum lab work. You're going to pay me the $400.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I'm going to take the lead, and what that means is I'm going to take the responsibility for your failure or for your success.
Mm-hmm.
Because and let me back this up. And I've had doctors call and go, that y'all sold a saliva kit to so-and-so, and they brought me the results, and I really don't know what it is. So just do whatever you think that needs to happen. And I refuse to do it, because that puts me right back where I was at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Where now the patient doesn't have contact with me, has no idea that mold toxicity, that stress, that the lack of sleep, that their blood sugar is going to affect their hormones that I'm preparing for them. Then the patient's going to put the hormones on, and then they're not going to get much better. And then it's going to be that my hormone cream didn't work.
Right.
Wow.
That my magic cream lost the magic.
So is that in your state that you can do that? Or I wonder across the country because it's like you're prescribing.
So they're all suggestions. So I actually go through and make a soap note for the doctor. The very first thing before I take a patient on, I go, you better make sure this is not cheap. So make sure your doctor will work with
on board. Yeah.
Okay.
And then once that doctor says, yes, I'll work with her, then I do all the homework, and then I put everything they get a folder that's got all the protocols in it and all my suggestions and all the supplements and the foods to eat, and sleep hygiene and all this stuff. But then there's also, I condense all that with lab results, serum results, and then my suggestions in a soap note. And then that goes to the doctor. And then the doctor has an option to change things or add things or deny it or approve it or whatever.
And then he gets you the prescription, and then you make it or whatever.
Yeah.
So you're working with them. Do you have collaborative practices with anybody?
So I don't have CPAs in my state. Two reasons. Mostly, I'm the only one out here in Western Oklahoma that knows what I'm doing. The rest of the doctors usually will appease me by accepting the recommendations, but really they don't understand it. I have doctors calling me all the time going, in fact, I've got an appointment on next Tuesday to go to a doctor's office, and he's like, can you go over these labs with me? He's like, you order labs, and I don't know what the impact of an SHBG is. And I don't know why you're ordering it. And so, it would be pointless for me to have a collaborative
Yeah.
with anybody out here right now. I encourage that though, if you're in a area where you've got doctors that understand what you're doing and really want to dig in. And because I don't have a CPA, then I really elevate that triad relationship. So it's patient, practitioner, and me.
Yeah.
Each individual one.
Right.
It sounds like you're very invested. Like that is very in-depth information that you're providing. Does that really take you like a whole week or two to like gather all that?
It doesn't anymore, but at the beginning, because I've got all my stuff, you know, I've got spreadsheets, all my optimal lab ranges that I've kind of collected over the years from different speakers, from different books, from webinars, conferences. Like I said, I literally cut, copy, and paste, and then I'll put I've got sheets. So all I have to do really is just look at my labs and go, okay, okay, optimal is this, even though this says normal. What happens when it's not optimal? I've got, you know, my data there that says, you know, if this isn't corrected now, this is what it could lead to. So now it takes me maybe 2 days to get prepared. But for the first probably 3 to 4 years, it was literally a week for each patient. So it's difficult.
Good for you. I mean, you took it under your own gumption to like educate yourself. Like,
I didn't know there was anything
crazy
out there.
No, I don't think, you know, I think that's a leadership. That's an amazing trait. And so I think that's just encouraging to other people that, you know, you never stop learning. And I think as pharmacists, we have to be in that space of like always pushing ourselves, always learning. Pharmacogenomics was a thing. I'm working on that now. I have like a 16-hour CE I'm doing, and that's just like, you know, and I've talked to doctors here and, you know, they don't know anything about pharmacogenomics. They're like, Heather, we don't even talk about it. So I was thinking about you too. I don't know, you know, surely like we have our local pharmacist meetings. So, you know, I've always kind of thought, one of us needs to go to like there's got to be a medical association local meeting, CE or something, and like teach these doctors about what those tests are and like how helpful they can be and to the next level that we can take our.
That is something that I've wanted to get into, is like go to our like OPHA, our branch of APHA, and speak to them, speak to the board. There's so many things. I want to get into OU and talk to the students. Southwestern Oklahoma State is about 40 miles from here, so I have done that, some things with them, with the students. But getting in touch with our Oklahoma Medical Board and seeing, surely, like you said, they've got to have a branch like OPHA, Oklahoma.
Exactly.
They've got to have one. And I have thought the exact same thing. And at some point, I have to go. I cannot do anymore. I cannot do it. In fact, I just told my girls like 2 weeks ago, I said, I cannot. It doesn't matter how much money they throw. I cannot do any more consults until my content is done, my prior commitments, and then I finish at least my A&P, and then get a good grasp of what school is going to be like again. You know, I'm 52 years old, and I really thought I was finished after I did the IFM. So we'll see.
Oh my goodness, such a neat journey. I'm so proud of you for just listening to that voice and like making that change. Like, I mean, I just know how it is. It's like you get somewhere and you're like, okay, I cannot stand another moment in this path, and it like takes you down the change path.
Yeah,
but it's like
there's so much invested in our careers that there was a part of me that mourned it, you know, that I was like, I'm ready to give it up. And oh, they're a puppy.
Oh no,
Yeah, I wanted to show you my puppy. So here's one of them. This is Diesel. This is Piper. And this is Piper.
Hi, brother.
Oh, goodness. So we think she's pregnant. We just bred her. So hopefully we're going to have some puppies.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I know.
They're adorable.
You guys are so cute. Yeah.
But anyway, thank you so much. This is awesome.
This one up again.
Get down. Get down. That's why they're not usually in here with us, because they want to be in your lap. But I know I have like we're career coaches for University of Florida, so we have a couple of students that are assigned to us. And I don't know, you might be the same way. I also have students that come to me and like, can we just have coffee?
Yes.
So we end up career coaching like a lot of students. And one of the girls I talked to, you know, because some of these, well, she's actually undergrad in pre-pharm. And, you know, some of these students nowadays, especially, will go and get the bachelor's first, even though we didn't have to. But they, you know, she's getting a nutrition degree, and she loved my concept of Halo Health, which is what I created, which is basically functional medicine without me even knowing what it was.
Yes.
And so that's why I'm really interested in this. But I told her, I'm like, get your nutrition degree and you can take that to this next thing. You need to look up functional medicine. And like you said, go into the schools to teach them about it, because so many students, this generation that's growing up, right? They have grown up on Whole Foods. We didn't know what Whole Foods were. Put some pesticides on it, give it to me. My daughter didn't even wash stuff. I'm like, so yeah, anyway, it's like, I think this generation coming up is going to be so prime for a foundation of like taking care of themselves. And the millennials, as much as we complained they were lazy because they don't want to work hard, they don't want to work hard. They don't want to be stressed. They don't care a lick about climbing the ladder. Why? Because they'll work half time their whole life and go out and surf the other half, and they're happy. Like, there's something to be said about these.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
So anyway, it's just really interesting, because I think the younger population that's in school now is definitely prime and interested in what you're doing.
So our school has done like it's a PharmD. You can go on just a PharmD single path, or you can dual
degree.
Yes, yeah, and do like a business administration.
Yeah, MBA.
I about that the other day, and I thought that's ridiculous, because the state of pharmacy right now, what are you going to do with your business degree? You're certainly not going to operate a pharmacy, because
it's going away.
So it should literally, there's no other degree that would better pair with pharmacists than nutrition, and it just puts us in just such a prime place. So I taught that class at ACA this weekend, and I had a student who is about to finish his residency, and he goes, I said, what's your story? And he said, I was a hospital chaplain. He's 45. So I was a hospital chaplain before I went to pharmacy school. And he goes, when I went into pharmacy school, it was right at the cusp of, is this going to still be a thing, or is it not? And he said, then by the time it was solidified that pharmacy is going the way it's going, he goes, I was about to graduate. And he said, I came to this class praying that I would see that there was something else than what I'm being taught in school. And he came to me afterwards and he goes, you completely answered my prayers. I was like, well, I didn't. I said, it was like God completely did that.
That's right.
It was like, I knew there had to be some place in pharmacy that could align with my convictions. And he said, you just told me this whole weekend that there is. And that was so powerful to me. It was incredible.
That is
so
awesome.
They're recognizing that there has to be something more. You know, when I speak at a lot of places, I talk to them about the TCT program.
Okay.
And everybody's like, what? And I'm like, oh, it's tech. And it's in 11 states, and it's coming to 5 more to roll out in the next year or so. I said, right now it's only an institutional, but they have done studies, and don't think that the big chains aren't going to get a hold of this. But they've done studies that a technician, it essentially eliminates the pharmacist at the final verification stage, so that the pharmacist could be doing something else. And they've done studies that says, I think up to 99% accurate, 99.7% accuracy if a technician is doing the verification.
Like check tech.
And so, I lead in with, here's all the stuff that you can do in functional medicine. And then they go, I don't have enough time to do that. And I'm like, don't worry about it, because TCT will be coming to your state, and you'll have all the time in the world. So,
yeah.
But anyway, well, I'm thrilled, and I'm so happy and proud of you guys, and I love watching y'all. So, if you can send me the link so I can see it and everything, I think.
Definitely. We'll probably make this part 2
for
Pharmacists Out of the Box.
We've been recording this too, so we're going to definitely make this part 2.
Y'all are crazy.
Our first bonus episode, because we don't really edit, so it'll just be that.
No, because you were given such great information about the testing and so forth. Oh, yeah.
You're awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
So y'all are sneaky.
Yeah. So Suzanne, thank you.
I'm going to get back to the pharmacy.
Part 2. We'll get back to the pharmacy. And you guys come back and see us next time on Pharmacists Out of the Box.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.